Hello, welcome back. Um, I'm glad that I'm feeling better. Last week I was so sick. I had just a really high fever that would not go away. I had a constant fever for 4 days. Advil was like my only relief, but I'm back on track now. And as I hope you noticed, I've got a new webcam, so I may be a little easier on the eyes from now on. Uh, and as you can see behind me, this wonderful new piece of equipment that I have purchased. This is a Pixma Pro Canon printer. And I'm very excited to announce that with this new piece of equipment, I will be opening an Etsy shop in the next couple of weeks. And I'm going to be selling just 5x7 prints of some of my different art pieces for now. But if you want to support me and you like the work I do, that will be an option. I'm also going to be opening up commissions this towards the end of this week. Um, I wanted to try and do something a little unique, so I'm going to be offering the digital commissions as prints as well for a little bit of an upcharge. So you can look forward to that. I'll put the link for my Ko-fi in the YouTube if you're interested, and it'll also be up on my Instagram. So announcements aside, I want to try something a little different today. I have a video here. This is a drawing that I did. I just posted it on Instagram. I was trying like a new reel style where it was just like little shots and little clips from different parts of the drawing process. So I want to do like a more in depth uh, the drawings at 2 times speed, and I'm just going to kind of talk about my process, what the piece is, the general basic ideas, some of the different concepts that I learned that I'm applying here. Excuse me. I still have a little bit of a cough, so if I start gagging and gasping in the middle of my video, that's why. My apologies. Um, so when I start a piece like this, I do definitely some reference collection. Like I get a handful of pictures for the character that I'm drawing. In this case, that's Caesar King from Zenless Zone Zero, which I don't really play the game that much, but I like how the characters look. Like they're fun. I like uh, Hoyoverse's character designs in all their games. So I just started here with like a really quick, really loose sketch and just to get the shapes down. And then I did like pulled out the liquify tool to push my gesture even further, give it more of a dynamic pose, make it look more alive. And then it's just tweaking the pose for my reference, seeing if I want to change how like the position of the arms, the legs, basic shifts in the just overall pose to help emphasize certain points or bring a draw your eye to a certain area in the piece. Um if you notice with this drawing right here, there's like a kind of windshield looking design that I have, like a windshield looking shape for the eyes and nose area on the face. It kind of comes down like this. And I learned that trick from Ethan Becker. He's a bit of a silly guy. He does YouTube videos on art talking about different topics. He's an animator. He's worked for Disney and stuff. Awesome guy, awesome tips. Go check him out. I'll link him in the description. But that um, windshield, like car windshield technique, shows you exactly where your eye sockets are, the point that your nose needs to be on. Like, it just sets up the face so that you can draw it in perfectly when you do go to draw it. It helps you visualize the form of the different planes. Like, you have the front plane and the forward plane, and that's why I say it's like a car windshield, because it simplifies that to be the windshield and the hood of the car. I think might be the analogy he uses. I haven't watched his video in a couple years, but I picked that up from him, and it served me so well. So I will link that. After the like base loose sketch, now I'm just trying to nail my form lines. I want my anatomy to be close enough. Of course, it's going to be covered by the character's costume, but I think the more accurate your anatomy is when you go and put the costume on top, the better it's going to look and the less work you're going to have to do then. I like to do my drawing in stages where it's like really rough gesture, and then I refine the gesture a little bit, and then I do like a clean line over the gesture for the anatomy. Try and put my muscle structure in there, add fat deposits where they belong, those kind of things. Excuse me. And then once I have that done, I'll start adding the hair, the costume. You can see here I'm kind of just putting the hair in. I think with hair, most of the emphasis is on what shapes you use. If you notice in this piece, I'm really trying to look at both sides of the head and make them have different shape hierarchies. Like on the left side, it's big, small, and on the right side, it's like small, medium, small, tiny. So it's just trying to keep a very clear shape hierarchy and looking at the hair and really simplifying it to big shapes, and then just adding a bit of texture on all the edges. I think I could have done a little better keeping this less symmetric. I mean, it is kind of a symmetric haircut that the character has, so I mean that poses a little bit of a challenge for making it look really alive and moving. Um, I introduce a little bit more like liveliness and gesture in the twin tails when I put those in. So you can see here, I'm just kind of blocking in the costume design. This drawing that I'm doing here is an example of like a flat color with a little bit of cell shading that I would do for my commissions. So it's not super polished. It gets all the colors in the character across, but it's not super refined. It's not like a full painting where I would get rid of the line art entirely and just paint directly over it. So I'm not being super concerned with how clean like my lines don't need to connect perfectly. I don't like to draw in that really like clear cut anime style. I get bored painting like that and drawing like that because I feel like I get stuck spending so much time trying to get my lines just right that I lose sight of the whole piece. So you might notice throughout this when I pick a focal point like the face or the chest in this piece, I spend extra time getting those lines clean and getting them to connect properly or adding extra line weight to them. And that's going to help draw the focal point of the piece. Like, those are the focal points, but it's going to draw the viewer's focus to them when they're looking at the artwork. I like to add during my sketching when I'm putting in whatever, like the costume and adding the detail. I do a lot of cross hatching with my pen. Um, this pen is actually one that I designed. It has a like tilt variation. So if I tilt the pen on its side, the brush gets really wide and I can do like bulk in values. But it just has like with pressure a opacity and size jitter so you can get really smooth transitions in your lines. It works really similarly to like a graphite pencil would. Um, when I draw traditionally, I love to have like a 2B graphite pencil and just take a X-Acto knife to it and shave my graphite so it's like that long. It gives me so much opportunity to bulk in values and change my line weight. There, it just opens a lot of possibilities to vary your work and make it look more interesting without having to switch to different pencils, um, so on. I think starting out, that was one of my biggest issues with doing digital art is I didn't have a pen. No matter how many brush packs I downloaded, I couldn't find a pen that did everything that I wanted it to. I so I learned how to make one to suit the specific needs of my style and how I like to draw things, what was comfortable for me to draw with. Um, if I can figure out how, if it's not too much of a pain, I'll link a download to this brush in my description, and you guys are more than welcome to check it out if you also use Procreate. Um, let's see, where am I at here? So I'm just adding details on. You can see like in the arms and hands, I don't put as much clean detail in, especially here on like the waist point, like this star belt that Caesar wears. I really simplified these shapes, just kind of throwing them in quickly. No reason to put too much detail into them because I don't want that to be a significant focal point of the piece. That's figuring out how to lose detail in less important points in your drawing will really magnify your skill. Like it, uh, magnify your skill is not the right word. It gives the effect of magnifying your skill. If you look at concept artists, they're masters at taking really clean, perfectly rendered stuff and then bringing it down to just like scribbles of color. And that leads your eye through the piece. And as you wander from the focal point, you realize that all this stuff in your peripherals is just like really simplified abstraction, even. And it makes a piece look really coherent because when you're looking at stuff in the real world, when you're looking around you, your eyes are focused on one point and everything else is kind of blurred together around that point. So it's kind of creating that effect in your artwork without using like Gaussian blur or anything because that muddles the piece. It gives the effect of unfocus while still keeping crisp brushstrokes. This piece isn't the perfect example of that, but I'm always thinking in my head, how can I simplify other parts to put emphasis on the focal points. Even in character design, like Caesar's character design has her legs have, she just has thigh highs on. Super simple, like one red line around the top and then knee pads. You can see how simplified the design is when it gets to the legs, and that's because they want to keep your focus in the mid and upper torso using all the different little details that add interest to the character. Like, she's part of the biker gang faction, so she's got stars and like bike armor and a bike jacket with spikes on it. It's all black and red. I'm pretty sure her like shield that she has in the game is a tire with like a big medallion on it. It's like just really has the characters. All Hoyoverse's designs are so good. The way that they, in each of the worlds that they've created, how their characters fit into those worlds with their designs is just perfect. Like, they did it flawlessly. And like Genshin Impact's like fantastical characters, they seamlessly fit into the world. And I love the color palettes that they use to make everything's like, it's like bubbly and fun. Uh, it's kind of lighthearted, and I enjoy that a lot about their character designs. Excuse me, and their world designs. You can see here, just laying in the face really quickly. If you look, if you notice, I used the like car front windshield design to put the face in, where the top line of the windshield is the eyebrows, and then the eyes fit into the front of the windshield, and the nose falls on like the connecting point of the hood, or where the hood would be if this face was a car. And then the mouth falls in between the bottom of the nose and the chin. And you can see it kind of really easily puts a structure to give you a proportional face without having to use all of your horizontal and vertical lines to align everything and getting it looking too static and stiff. I think using gentle construction, like kind of just giving you a large guide for where everything goes, helps you keep that gesture, that liveliness in your piece, and makes it look really alive, makes it look like it's coming out of the page in a way. If you want to learn more construction, basic construction, maybe I'll make a video someday about some of the things that I've picked up. But I want to shout out Cynic's design and his Anatomy Quick Tip series. Hands down, best free anatomy series I've ever seen. He shows you really intuitive simplifications for bone and muscle structures, and he shows you how to use them, what they look like from all the different angles you could see them, and he gives you exercises to practice with those different body parts so you can get better at using them and understanding them. And then he does paintings of how to render the skin in those areas, talking about different points with hue shifts and where different points of wear are in skins so they would have more blood vessels in them, those things. Super well researched, super in depth, but still kind of simple and intuitive. I mean, Cynics is just I'm like his biggest little fanboy, but check him out. He'll be in the description too. I'm just gonna have every artist in the description at this point. um, I think that uh, at at this point in the drawing, it's just kind of bulking in color. I like to use the selection tool to bulk in my flat values really quickly. I think it's just super efficient. You can just select around everything, and then if you want to tweak it later, you have easy shapes to select with the automatic tool, and then shift the hue or shift your values there. Um, the selection, like I use the selection to kind of really quickly bulk the values, but I don't do super close to the edge. I usually come back with the brush after that and clean up my lines and make it look like a really smooth transition. Um, once I do, once I bulk all the values, then I come through and there's two ways that I add shadow or shift in the piece, and that's usually I usually use multiply layers because it's faster. It gives you like an overall cohesive shadow to the piece, and it will like all the flat colors that you have laid down already, the multiply will go over that and multiply on them, so it'll draw the hue out of that base color a little bit and add it to the multiply. So I like add my multiply and then I merge the layers together and then paint in between. I'll make a video demonstrating that at some point if you guys are interested. But in this piece, since I'm just doing a little bit of cell shading, like one shadow color for each of the flat colors that I have, I just select it and drop the value a little bit and add a little bit more saturation. And for some of them, maybe I tweak the hue slightly, but I try and keep it relatively consistent across because I don't want my shadow colors for each of the different flat colors to start wandering off too far. Because if I take like everything and shift it a little bit green, then oh, I gotta let my papa out of the room. Excuse me. So if I shift everything a little bit green because of how I use the like square hue and saturation model, you can see it right here on the screen now. If I shift everything a little bit green, of course, some colors are closer to green. So like if I take my purple and move it closer to green, it's going to get way too green as compared my skin shifted to green, if that makes sense. Like I won't have a consistent change in color if I shift everything the same amount towards something. I'd have to shift more or less depending on the location of the color to begin with, and I think that that's just way too much trouble to deal with, so I don't. I just kind of do slight shift, a little bit of hue shift, just to add a little more interest to the shadow. And you'll see here, I actually ended up the like green background that I use. In case any of you were wondering why I always use that, I think it's easier on the eye and it helps me give more accurate colors. It's another tip for painting that I picked up from Cynic's Design. You do like a chalkboard color because it really is easy on the eyes and you can see your lights and darks much better against that background. You can see what your colors really look like in a in context as compared to white, because white's so bright and like jarring to your eyes that it makes you because of color context, when you put down like skin tones, all your skin tones will end up being too bright and saturated next to it. And then if you try and add a background, you're going to be like, whoa, and you're going to have to tone everything back anyway. So I think it's better to just start with like a background value. A lot of people will use like a little bit of a gray. I just really like the chalkboard. I've been doing it for so long that it's just it's so comfortable for me. There's be no reason to change it. Um, but anyway, the my chalkboard color ended up being Caesar's like exact hair color. So that's why I put a background into this piece. I was originally, excuse me, I was originally just gonna do the flat background, but her hair color matched it, so I needed to do something different. So I kind of took I had a in one of my Caesar reference photos, there was the film scroll background that they do for all the characters. So I just kind of simplified that and added some of my own details with a little bit of value shift to highlight different points or different parts of the character. Like you can see, I put the gold right behind her head and shoulder, and then coming down and leading into her legs and hips. And that helps emphasize the focal point. You can see like her arms and stuff are on a gray space, so they aren't emphasized in the same way that her face is, being directly over top the golden colors, since it's such a contrast to the colors that her character is painted with. Excuse me. Since it's such a contrast to the colors that her character is painting with, it draws your eye there first. The difference draws your eye to it. You can see here I'm starting to do a little bit of cell shading. How I like to do it is start with my most extreme value and then take my like blend tool and just swipe out and then color select along that path to get me like a somewhat gentle gradient. And then if I decide that I need to gradate more, I'll take the midtone and repeat the process. And that gives me like a range of color in between the 2 points, and I can select along that range. I think that's the best way to do it when you are adding hue shift as well as value shift, because it's much harder to get your in between values just right than it is to get your extreme right and your least extreme correct. And then you just, like I said, blend them across, and it gives you a really nice smooth transition color to use for the rest of your render. You can see, like I said, I'm just kind of dropping my values a little bit, shifting the hue a little bit, and adding some, like a suggestion of a light source. I've kind of put all my shadows towards the left side to kind of hint at the light coming down into her face and like the light coming down from the top right. I decided not to add any highlights to this piece. I just wanted to keep it like really, really simple cell shading to demonstrate what that would look like for a commission. I think for me, when it comes to doing commission work, I may have a hard time keeping it like perfectly consistent. It's going to depend on what character I'm drawing, what piece I'm doing, how much I need to change how I do things. Like some characters might really benefit from having highlights added to some of their outfit colors if their outfit is largely the same color. Like those highlights help define differences in shapes. So I think it's kind of important to be variable with how you apply your cell shading. Because, like I said, sometimes you need highlights, sometimes you need an extra shadow color, sometimes you need like 2 dark values instead of 1. You can see in this piece, I added 3 values for the skin because I wanted a smoother transition there. It was just too jarring with 2, especially on the face being the main focal point. So, just being considerate of what needs more clarity can help you make decisions about how many shadows you need to add when you're painting something. You can see here I'm just throwing in some dark values in the background to kind of give form to the floor that she's sitting on. I didn't want to do anything super complex. I wanted, once I started the background, I was like, oh, this is a perfect example to demonstrate what I do for like the graphic background add-on for my commission page. Here I am. I'm just cleaning up the background lines a little bit. Looking back on this now, I wish I had, I wish I'd smoothed it out a little bit more. Maybe threw an extra value between the dark and light, or darkened the light value a little bit, so it wasn't such a jarring transition in the background. I don't think it hurts the piece too much, but it would be a little nicer to have a smoother gradient there. I definitely got lazy on these hands too. I just wanted to get the piece done. A little bit, like I wanted to, I had to go somewhere in the morning, and I was working on this, so I just wanted to like get it finished up and wrapped up before I had to leave. So I definitely rushed a little bit because of that. So here you can see I'm doing, this is like the point where the piece is almost done. I'll take all my layers and merge them together, and then do curves adjustments for the colors, and see like what minor tweaks I want to make, where I can add a little more pop or take a little bit of pop away if it's too strong. And then I'm the biggest fan of noise layers. Just put a little bit of noise over all your paintings, and it helps bring it all together. It helps blend together, and it gives it like such a gorgeous, I guess, vintagey look. I just love it. And then I'm shrinking the piece down a little bit because I love how a white border looks on a painting. I think I might do a little bit more work on this, or leave it as is and list it as a print. I just really like how I did the background here with the white border. I did there's this guy, Inkwell Illustrations. He's awesome. I love his prints, but I kind of, in some of his work, he does this where he bleeds the background or the character over the edge of the color into the white border. So I kind of wanted to do that here. You can see me tweaking with it and getting like clean edges. It breaks the perfect silhouette and makes it look more painterly, more graphic. Gives you more interest when your eyes wandering around the piece, especially towards the borders of it. I'm just like the biggest advocate for adding noise to all your pieces, or color pieces anyway. It doesn't make so much of a difference with line or value drawings, I don't think, but you can even change your layer type for the noise layer. You can change the layer type to be multiply, and that'll help. Like, it gives a little bit of a different effect if that's what you want to do. It gives more like a multiply effect where it darkens everything a little bit, but still blends it together and still draws on the values from the different areas of the piece. Okay, here I am. I actually did a little bit of touch up after this point. I'm not sure if I have it in the video because like I'm not sure where I stopped. Okay, so here I'm trying to figure out how I want to paint the lips for for a piece this simple, because usually I'll fully do the lips in color. Um, but I just rewatched My Dress Up Darling, which is just, it's such an adorable show. It's like this, I mean, you can look it up. This character, she wants to cosplay, and she meets this guy who makes Hina dolls, and he helps her make like cosplay costumes, and they fall in love. It's just so sweet. I love it. But the artists that work on that show, they do the lips a certain way, where the top lip is kind of like just the dark colored line, and then they render the bottom lip with like a lip color and give it a little highlight. So here I was trying to figure out how I wanted to paint the lips. I was doing my normal technique, just doing like just painting over them. But then I decided, hey, I'm gonna try that other technique, like how My Dress Up Darling characters are. And I actually really, really liked how that looked in this piece. I think it kind of brought the whole face together using my, like, with how I did the rest of the piece. It kind of just tied it together really well. Keeping that line in the lips helped keep it cohesive with how prominent the line art is throughout the rest of the drawing. Since I wanted to keep it kind of rough and loose, I didn't drop my line art value and paint over it. I just left it shining through the whole way. So that wraps up the piece. I wanted to throw out a thank you to everyone who's commented on my last few videos. Super sweet. No negative comments yet. That's incredible. But you guys are just super awesome, super supportive. It's made me excited to make new videos, to see people being like, I can't wait to see your stuff. That's just really awesome. I had no idea, I doubted I'd even get comments in my first few videos. So I think that's just awesome. Thank you guys so much. I love you all, and please take care.